All right, so today I'm gonna go over the 5 things that I don't like about the DJI FPV drone. Now, I've been flying it pretty much every single day, and there are some gripes that I have with that, and I wanna discuss those in this video. Let's get started.
Yeah, I think too small, I got big dreams. You just starting, I'm way ahead at the end scenes. Started reading and dodging all
right,
quick
so
schemes.
not everything can be sunshine and rainbows, but there are some things that I don't like about this FPV drone, and some of these are more apparent than others. Now, if you're interested in knowing what I love about this drone, I'm gonna have a separate video, the 5 things that I like about the DJI FPV drone, but if you're just curious and all you care about is the negatives, well, this video is going to be for you. Now, I'm going to talk about these in no particular order, so let's get right into it with number 1, and that's geofencing. All right, so geofencing on an FPV drone is something you don't even really think about. Every time I boot up one of my other quads and start flying, I'm not even thinking about the fact that I would have to unlock it. But with the DJI FPV drone, it has DJI's brains at heart, and because it does, geofencing is going to absolutely be a thing. Now, this will not affect everybody depending on where you fly, but for some flyers that fly in more urban environments, near or around within airport areas, which even outside of the 5-mile mark, I have noticed that the geofencing has kicked me down and not allowed me to take off in certain areas. Now, DJI does need to improve the unlock application with this. You would think that because you're using the same application as a Mavic Mini, that the unlock process would be simplistic, but it's really not, and because of that, they need to improve that. So for me, that's something that I definitely don't like, and I probably will never get used to, is having a company basically deem me irresponsible. Just sort of annoying. All right, the second thing that I don't like about the DJI FPV drone is the RC. And actually, it's really only one thing with the RC that really bothers me and irks me. Now, yours may be different, but for me, it's this gimbal wheel. The positioning of this gimbal wheel for a pincher sort of sits like this, and you can see where my pinky is resting. And a couple of times I've been flying now, I've accidentally been changing the pitch of the gimbal, and I didn't know it. And by the time I knew it, I was at -0 degrees, and it was like -10 actually, or 10 degrees. And what happens is when you are flying manual, that is going to dictate how fast you are capable of going. And well, needless to say, I almost lost this drone on the very first outing because of that little wheel. So I would really like for DJI to make an option to either remap this or have the ability to lock this somehow. I don't know, maybe say double tap this and it locks the scroll wheel. I don't know. But for me, the scroll wheel is sort of annoying because that's where my fingers tend to gravitate. So I have had to change up how I hold this RC. Now, this may not affect everyone, but it will probably affect pinchers for certain. All right, so the third thing that I don't like about this drone, and this is another pretty fixable thing, is how brittle these props are. Now, I'm used to pretty durable props when I'm flying FPV. I'm used to like HQ props, which can take beating after beating. But these seem to get really nicked up with just the slightest brush of a tree branch or even some pretty dense grass. I was flying yesterday and you can quite literally see there is grass on here. That's how close I was getting to the ground. And as I'm looking over these props, I'm noticing little nicks and cuts in the props, and I haven't crashed this. This is just because I'm getting close to those tree branches, and it's a little annoying that it's that easy for these props to get nicked and scratched up. They also bend really easy. I noticed that as I put this in and out of my bag, I've had to bend props back into place several times. And these are not cheap props. It's 15 bucks for a set of props. You can easily get a set of props for any other drone for $3 to $4 on the high end of things. And that's really going with an expensive prop. So I think one of the things that we need to see and hope that happens is aftermarket vendors start producing props for these, because if not, 15 bucks a pop is going to get old really, really quickly. All right, so thing number 4 that I dislike about the FPV drone is the fact that it is slightly underpowered for what it is. Now, people talk about the weight of this drone, and the reality is it doesn't weigh incredibly much more than my heaviest freestyle rig. The problem comes in the fact that we don't know what kV these motors are. At first, I thought maybe we were dealing with like a 1700 kV, maybe a 2306 stator, but these feel to me more like a 1600, almost a 1550 kV on a 2306 stator. maybe a little higher KV, but definitely not more than 1700. Now, if you think about it, DJI has had to tune this drone to be as efficient as possible for all types of pilots, so it would make sense that they are going to use a less snappier KV. The higher the KV, the higher the RPMs this is going to spin, which also means it can be a little bit more touchy coming out of dives. Me personally, I find that 1800 to the high end of 1750 KV is my sweet spot on my rigs, but everybody's gonna be a little bit different. A couple of times diving, like that tower for instance, usually I would dive all the way down and come out underneath the trees, but I didn't trust that I was gonna have enough power to totally come out of that dive. And again, that comes with skill, that you just understand what this drone's going to do, but it's still quite unpredictable. And yes, the weight is noticeable, but that's only because it doesn't have as much power as something that, let's say, that I built. Small gripe, but just something worth noting. Alrighty, and the last thing that I don't like about this drone is the overall build quality. Now, they said this was some sort of carbon-infused plastic, but let's be real, plastic is plastic. No matter what you say it is, it's still plastic. At the end of the day, you only get one shot to break this drone. Now, they're advertising this drone as the dynamic shot drone. It's like supposed to give you those better shots than a Mavic, and everybody can say anything they want about this and that. Yeah, there's been some people that have done crash tests and hit head on, but let's put it this way. I've seen enough of these in the groups with broken motors at the very end of these arms to know that one hit, that's all it's gonna take to send this thing back in for repair. And the fact that there isn't parts really readily available for these to fix these on your own is a bit of a bummer. DJI, unfortunately for me, has missed the boat with Care Refresh, because you're charging $200 for this Care Refresh insurance, and then you're charging an additional $200 for a deductible to send this in to get repaired. So basically you're saving, okay, $400 at the end of it, because you're still gonna have like a $300 additional cost there. It's crazy, because you're almost gonna pay the entire cost of a new drone if you break this. Now, they're gonna make a shit ton of money off of this, unfortunately, just because when you break something, you gotta pay that deductible. They're gonna make money. So these things do not cost that much to build. Probably these cost a lot less than your standard quad to build if I didn't know any better. Unfortunately, it's plastic, it's not carbon. I would have loved to see a carbon fiber build. The fact that you are landing on the battery is a bit annoying. And yeah, just land it in your hand. If you wanna land it that way, that's fine. But I'm already getting these pieces right here. Like, my landing gear is already chewed up from landing on asphalt. So I never condone landing in your hand, but if you want to prolong the life of your landing gear, you want to prolong the life of this drone, I highly recommend hand catching it if you can, if you're skilled enough and you're safe enough. Again, do that at your own accord. I'm just saying I'm gonna hand catch mine going forward because I don't want it to break. However, I will say I think a lot of these nicks and cuts on the landing gear here are probably actually from taking off. When you take off, it sort of skits a little bit, and I think that's probably what I'm seeing here. But again, long run, I don't think this is going to be doing very well for the long game, unfortunately. Hopefully what will happen is a lot of pilots will graduate from this and move on to more of a home built drone. All right, but that's gonna do it for my 5 things I don't like about this drone. I can pick on this a little bit more if I wanted to get really technical, but those are the 5 things that stuck out in my mind. Hopefully it'll help you if you're trying to think about whether or not you want to purchase this. I'll be dropping a separate video talking about the 5 things I do like about this drone, so be sure you check out that before you leave some nasty comments. I like flaming you guys in the comments, so if you leave a stupid comment, I'm not gonna take the high road. Just so you know, this is not Peter McKinnon's channel. This is not any of these YouTubers that take the high road. I literally burn the high road down, like quite literally. You can't go back that way once you go. So I burned it. It's behind me, it's burning, it's on fire. I'll save that for somebody else's channel. Stay original.